Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Human Design Podcast. I am Miko, and on the other side of the world and screen, we have Celestina.
Hey guys, I'm muted because my mic is making weird sounds, so I'll be in and out.
Let's hope this is not going to continue throughout the episode, because if you listened to the last one, we already had a few technical challenges, such as sharing the screen didn't work, so you weren't able to see the author's human design profiles. And if you're a very acoustic person, you probably weren't able to sit through the episode because my microphone quality of the AirPods was catastrophical. I couldn't have listened to it, so big apologies from our end, especially my end, that this didn't work out the way we planned. We are now back with our professional microphones, and Mercury stopped retrograding a few days ago, so let's just hope the shadow is over. Celestina is hailing the Mercury god. So, yeah, if you're watching, you could have just seen that. And we have also figured out, as Celestina mentioned in her solo episode, how to upload the video to Spotify as well. So you can now watch it on Spotify and on YouTube, and otherwise it's available on all normal or other audio podcast platforms. So today we're going to be talking about our own personal charts, because Celestina had a very interesting week last week where she, as a manifester, when she was speaking, she didn't feel like she was the one speaking, if that makes sense. And I was listening to a voice message of hers, and it is so true. She didn't sound anything like her. It was pretty creepy. But that led us to going into a self-reflection and introspection episode where we share a little bit about our personal charts, so my chart and her chart, and then we kind of combine them together and look at it together. So right now on the screen you will see the connection chart of Celestina and I, and then we're going to go into the individual charts. Well, first we're going to go into the individual charts, and I would invite you to start with mine because I really want to go into the asteroids with yours in a little bit. I can't wait.
Amazing. I was like, when you were saying all this, I was looking up to see if I had the voice message on there, because I can't explain how this felt. And like, if anyone out there, if we can just take a sec for this, because it was the weirdest thing. It was maybe like a 2.5 day thing. Like, it went on beyond Thursday when I messaged you that message last week, and I saw that you saved it. So if you want to pull it up, you're more than welcome to, and share it with these peeps, because it was like I was speaking words, but it didn't feel like me speaking the words. I don't know how else to explain it. It was very like an outer body thing. And also I had to work that night, and I did not want to people. So I like just let my people do their thing, and I like just sat down on a table very in my own world and my own vibe. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else has experienced that before, but it was whack. Have you? I mean, you have access to your throat.
I do, and yes, 100%. Sometimes I don't feel like when I'm speaking, I'm saying the things that really come from within me. And with me, it is the 1156 channel that is connected to my throat. So I only have my mind that is connected, or my ajna that is connected to my throat. I don't actually have my heart connected to my throat like you do. So for you,
Yeah.
it's the ego. It comes from your heart. I also didn't look. Did you look at the planets? What was happening there?
No,
at
I
that
didn't.
point
I
in
didn't
time?
think to look that night. Yeah.
I found it. Let's
Yeah.
listen to it. You
Play
will
this
hear
back.
what we mean.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. I'm really tired, and I don't know, I like had to go to work because I was a supervisor today, but every time I like spoke after like being in the zone, like looking at the screen and like doing stuff, because I literally just like sat there like doing computer stuff the whole time. Every time I spoke, it felt like the words coming out of my mouth weren't, like, wasn't me. I don't know how to explain it. Like, even now, saying the words, I'm, like, reflecting on it, and it doesn't feel like me saying the words. I don't know, I just feel very disconnected from my body today. It's really weird. As I said, with gum in my mouth.
Yeah, it felt strange listening to that.
That was the first time I've ever been cognizant of it, though. I'm sure it's happened before, but I think now, being in the, like, on the roof phase, I was cognizant of it, which was very interesting.
Yeah. So, any manifestors out there, especially, let's talk especially to the manifestors or defined throats. Have you ever had this feeling where your voice is not your own, or where the words that you're saying are not necessarily your own, or you just feel separated from your acoustic channel?
Yeah. And I think I still felt like that Friday and Saturday, but less so. So maybe it was planetary. I have to go back and look now. That was weird. Super weird. Okay.
Agreed.
Well, now that we've talked about the impetus of this episode, let's dig into our charts. Let's start with Miko's chart because she doesn't like to talk about her chart as a projector. So this is fun. It's fun to look at, I think, because you're not as open as I am, but you're pretty open. So you really are taking in a lot of energy from your world, but I feel like you're so grounded at the same time, which is so interesting to me. So, yeah, as you guys can see, the definition of her ego makes her an ego projector, right? So only two gates coming out of your... why am I squinting? I have your chart on my screen. Had your chart on my screen. Okay, I'm going to squint. Anyway, only 2 gates coming out of your emotional center, which... Oh, zoom in. Yes, love that. So good. Only 2 gates coming out of your emotional center, which... We've talked about this in previous episodes, but I think it's a cool little reflection, right? So just because, actually, you don't have anything completely open. Ooh, how did I not see that earlier? Interesting. So you do have, like, tapped in. Okay, I'm not forming full thoughts. Let me go back, guys. So we talked about this a little bit in the centers episode, right? So open versus undefined versus defined. Nothing on her chart is completely open, meaning that she at least has 1 gate coming out of a center. And I feel like that gives you the opportunity to tap into the energies of that center a little bit better, even though it's not fully defined on your chart. So having the essence of understanding what an emotional wave could potentially feel like, or if it's, what's it called? If the planets define your emotional center, right? Like it makes a little bit more sense for you as that human. So that, just taking that into account, I think is really interesting because you have the ability to tap into all of your centers, but still reflect back other people's energy and then also electromagnetically connect, which we'll talk about when we get to that, because our electromagnetic connections are like, it's a laundry list of electromagnetic connections. It's insane. Anyway, yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've talked about over the last couple of episodes with your chart in particular is that because, like, I know it's the gate of shock, it's the channel of shock, right? From your ego to your identity center, I really feel like you are 100% who you are all the time. And it's really cool. It's really cool to be able to see that because I don't have that at all, right? Like, in past episodes, I've said, I'm who I am, where I am, if that makes sense. My external environment definitely defines me, but that's not the case for you. So it's really cool to see how that manifests itself in you. I would love to know how it feels being a split definition in this space, though, right? So you have your ego and your identity center, your G center, defined and connected via that one channel. And then you also have your throat and your ajna connected. Does it feel like, I know what a heart pull feels like for me. And most of the time it'll come out verbally of like just having to say something to get it out. What does that feel like for you being the split definition and having most of your energy above, right? Because like it's not really the sacral, emotional, splenic root energy, kind of grounding energy. It's kind of just floating in the middle. What does that feel like?
I think I do need a bit more time to make a decision. So I feel like I do have heart pulls, but I do need to kind of wait a little longer instead of just rushing into it. There are some times where I'm really sure that this is a hard pull and it will stay a hard pull, but I would still give myself a bit more time before really jumping into something instead of just going for it. The split definition is 3313. When I'm out on the streets, I do like to actually wear headphones so that people don't come up to me, because 13, it's a very potent gate. So I'm kind of looking for, the 33 is about this aloneness, being alone, wanting my own space. So I am kind of searching for that. And the 13 is about attracting individuals who will share their life stories with me. And that happens to me so much where where I'm just sitting in the bus and I have my headphones on, but people will still come up to me and try to tell them their life story to me. When I'm at the hairdresser, I always get the full story of the hairdresser or even a customer that's sitting next to me. So it always happens. And I'm kind of searching for that alone space, looking for it, because I do have gate 13 defined, but I don't have gate 33 defined. And it is consciously defined in my chart. So I'm aware that this is happening. I'm aware that this is something that happens to me. It is in my Venus 13.5. So it is also a very feminine energy, which I assume, or I feel, it provides people with feeling safe and protected as well when they share their stories. And it is true that I don't have the connection to the 33, so I keep the secrets that are told to me. I don't go out there and spread it. So if you're in an unhealthy 1333 channel connection, either through someone else or within yourself, you tend to gossip. You tend to share a lot of stories about everything and everyone around you, everyone that told you their stories. But actually the 1333 is about taking in these stories of people, and I do that, and I do share it, but I would never reveal the individual who shared it with me, but I share it more in a the wisdom of the story is kind of way. So it is an inspiration to me. I use it to help other clients, for example, have a connection to something or someone where they understand, okay, I'm not alone, but I would never reveal who it's from. So I often don't even reveal the gender. I just stay gender neutral. But I find it important to share the stories, but I also take time to share it. So I kind of wait for the connection. And when I have someone with 33 on the other side, then I do share a lot about myself as well. So it's kind of I enjoy it a lot having this kind of definition or non-definition.
Yeah, I just think it's really cool because I'm pretty sure the first time you and I were physically in the same space, we just told each other like really random stories. So good.
Yep.
So good. And you guys will, yeah. Go ahead.
Celestina also has the 13th gate.
Both consciously and unconsciously defined.
Both consciously and unconsciously defined, yes. So it is a very interesting aspect. As well, when we're doing retreats together, I feel like people just open up, and we experienced this. It was really crazy how people were sharing their stories with us, and even very deep and intimate stories. They would just open up and tell their stories to us.
Yeah. It's really beautiful, I think, when you're in an environment like that that's supportive of that. But I also find it very annoying when random people come up to me on my on the street. And similarly to you, I have noise canceling headphones on. I hate it. You'd think that I can just exude manifestor RBF, don't fuck with me vibes. Nope, not at all. I don't want to feel like a hug. Anyway, this part's about you, not about me. Okay, cool. So I think some other really cool points to knock out.
I don't want to feel like a hug.
I don't want to feel like a hug.
I don't want to feel like a generator. A healthy generator. Okay.
I think other cool points about this is that you have the openness at the root, the openness again in your lower half. I recently, and you can tell me how this feels for you, but recently I've been very aware of when I have either like unhealthy roots around me or unhealthy people or people who are energetically unhealthy in like the lower half, because it adds so much anxiety into my life. And I've noticed this more so when I'm just like sitting in the restaurant, for example, because I've become more aware of like my staff's human designs and like what they're bringing to the table, and I understand them energetically. But when someone else comes in and they're like raging, I'm like, oh God, where are my stones? Literally, that happened last night, and like grabbed one as soon as they left, put it in my pocket, and I was like, oh wow. And I'm back and centered. So for you, I would love to know how this feels, because I'm equally, if not maybe a little bit more so, open down there as well. But again, you have more defined than I do. So what does the openness feel like for you in your, let's stick with root at this point, just because like the pressure, the anxiety piece of it.
Having an undefined root and not being aware of what that means, I feel it does make you feel like you're under a lot of pressure. And understanding it from a human design perspective really, really helped me immensely, because I now know that when I'm feeling this kind of pressure, I just need to separate myself from the people around me, because I know that either if I know that someone is stressed, I just need to get out of their space and take a walk around the block. And if I don't know if someone is stressed, so for example, if I'm sitting in a cafe, but I feel suddenly stressed for some reason, then I also need to get up and leave that space to clear out my energy. I can either choose to just breathe through it as well. I can also choose to stay in the space and just visualize, okay, this is not my stress. It has nothing to do with me, and just release it through breathing, or I literally get up and I leave. But this breathing will only work if you've really practiced it over and over again. It's not going to work if you've never practiced breathing exercises and suddenly you choose to, okay, I'm going to just breathe it away. That's not going to work. So what helps me a lot are all of my techniques and tools that I've learned throughout the years to keep me grounded. And I think what you're seeing or experiencing regarding this groundedness is really a lot of self-practice. It is a lot of doing my habits and rituals every day. At the moment, I have to say I'm slacking a little bit on that, because I don't really have a lot of space to do it at the moment. There's a lot of moving going on, so I try to do the things that I can. For example, meditation or visualization, breathing exercises, things like that. But to really do my yoga exercises, if the sun is not shining, there is at the moment literally no space for that. So I just try to move around in the kitchen, for example, randomly. Pull out a warrior position or something like that to keep me grounded. And my brother sometimes walks in and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, this is how I keep myself grounded. So now you know. But when it comes to undefined centers, so having gates coming out of these centers, it does give you a way to tap in. But it's a conditioned way to tap into these energies. So it is the same kind of, this is how I experience the root center. And even if someone else would define, for example, my 54, which I don't have, I wouldn't necessarily understand it. This is something that I learn throughout life. So the older I get, the more I will understand the other undefined gates as well. But the ones that I can more easily connect with are gate 38, 39, and 58. Especially 38, 39, because these are my sun and earth. So these are very deeply rooted in my design and very important for it. As you can see, Sun and Earth, both of them undefined centers. So this is just one hint as to why I definitely need other people to fulfill my life purpose. This could be clients, this could be you, Celestina,
Hey.
people like that.
I wonder too if because like two of your very important planets are in your root, I wonder if you're a bit more tapped into it because of that too. You know?
Yeah, it could be. However, I do, when someone is around me that has a defined root and they're not in a healthy expression, it stresses me out so much. It really puts so much pressure onto me that I do have to leave the space. I can't handle it. And I've chosen a partner that is the entire opposite design of me. So complete opposite. He has all the defined areas that I don't have except for the head. But
Oh, wow.
spleen, root, emotional solar plexus, and sacral.
Interesting. Ooh, might have to do a whole other episode on that. Bring him on.
Not sure he would be open for that, but
Perhaps not. Perhaps not. It's all good. Yeah, I feel like that's really interesting though, to feel that it's a whole different episode. It's a whole different I'm not even going to dive in. That's a whole different episode. Very cool though.
yeah, it's a lot of learning potential, a lot, and we have had a lot of learning curves.
The other piece that I want to touch on, because you and I we've I think expressed it on here before as well, but the undefined spleen that you have, my understanding is like undefined and open have this kind of innate sense of whatever it is, this like just innate sense for others and things that are happening there, and can really tap into that. I know you and I had that experience when we were in Lake Como about my emotions, but I didn't realize that. I thought your spleen, like at that point, I don't think I'd seen your chart or like hadn't really looked at it. I just glanced over it, if you will. So I didn't realize it was undefined at that point. I thought it was completely open, which is really interesting because you had a very visceral response, as did I, as did the other person in the room. So that was really interesting to me. I didn't realize that an undefined spleen could have that same visceral response potentially. Do you want to elaborate perhaps? I don't know where I'm going with that, but I just thought that was really interesting.
This was one of the most interesting experiences for sure, when it comes to as well looking at it from a human design perspective and being so aware of all the charts that are in the room. So to me, this was very interesting. And we were also doing a clearing exercise. So I'm not sure if we did the clearing exercise before or after that situation, but we had pulled cards, and what happened was that we kind of bounced our emotions and also this intuitive side of this experience. We bounced it back and forth between us. So there was another individual with a completely open spleen. I think you had a completely open spleen. And I think the other individual also had it. But it was just super intense to experience this. And I do think that it's not just connected to the spleen. I do think that it was also connected to the emotional solar plexus. And we also had another individual that was emotionally defined. And they also were splenically defined. So they couldn't understand what was going on with all three of us. And it was interesting to just see how all of that energy was bouncing back and forth. And I think at some point it was just such an overload that I really just had to physically leave the space, because I felt like I was tearing up and it was just a lot of energy floating around. So that's why I believe it was a big mix of emotional and splenic energies.
Yeah, that's super helpful. And I'm sorry if that was vague, guys, but it was just a really intense experience of being in a retreat, like whipping out some cards, doing some releasing, and it was just wild. I highly
Yeah.
recommend coming to one of our retreats to experience that. Can't promise the exact same thing, but damn.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Cool. So we have similarities in our chart as well. Like we've gone over a decent amount of the differences. Is there anything else? I mean, I don't know how deeply you've dove into your chart over these past like 6 years. Probably not, I'm assuming. But is there anything else in particular you want to point out? Because I would go through, there's some other things I would go through, but I would love to know. Is there anything else that you would like to point out that really stands out to you?
What stood out to me while I was going through it, so kind of every time I look at my chart, I kind of rediscover it again and again because I don't seem to be able to remember my own chart. This is very interesting. So it's not that I don't dive into it, it's just that I just don't seem to remember it very well. And in this case, when I was going through it, what I realized was that, first of all, I have 3 times the 11 defined and the 56. So I have the 5611 channel or 1156 channel. And this is about the storyteller. So yes, this is something that is very important to me, to collect all kinds of stories that I can, but also to create stories that can really help people be inspired and make a change in their lives. So these two things, the 2551 and 1156 are the only 2 channels that I have, and I do use them a lot as well when it comes to clients. The other thing that I noticed is that we have a very strong 44-26 connection. So I also have 344s, which I didn't really realize until I looked at our charts together. So the marketing aspect should be working pretty well with us, at least with your 26 as well, because this is actually the salesperson, the person that can sell things. But we're going to get into that when we're going to get into the asteroids of yours, because there are ways that Celestina sells. So it's not that she sells an ice cream to an Eskimo. She can only sell things if she really truly believes in them. But we're going to, if you look at the asteroids, that's why I love looking at them, because they give a whole nother layer to it. Yes, you can also, of course, look at the lines of the gates and you will get a deeper insight, and it will change from person to person. It will give you another layer to it, also the color tones and bases. So just because you have that channel doesn't mean that you are a great salesperson no matter what. Some people will have to be genuine in their sales approach, like Celestina, and others, they can literally sell anything to anyone. So that was something that I found very interesting, that we have such a strong definition in this area.
Together, also a lot of tribal circuitry, like a lot.
True. I didn't even look at that. That's true. Huh.
We might have to do a full episode on circuitry. We have not done that.
That's true. We haven't done that. That's a good point. I will write that down. Circuitry.
Amazing. Cool. Yeah, I feel like we've done some work on your chart. Is there, again, I like that you've rediscovered that you have a lot of energy in what, 3 gates, 2 gates?
Yeah,
11,
3.
14, what did you say? 44.
Yep.
Damn. Wild.
Yep, I also found that very interesting to see that again. No, I don't think I have looked at it, or I don't think I realized that I had that much definition in these gates before. I can't tell you, but it was still interesting. So now let's dive into your chart. So this is the first time that Celestina, I think, experiences me looking into asteroids in this way. She knows that this is something that I do, but I've never done her chart. I've never looked at her chart with asteroids in connection with asteroids. And what I love about asteroids is that you can also look at gates that are not defined, which I didn't do in your case. I focused on the major planets, so the sun, the earth, conscious and unconscious. But if you really want to dive deeper, so for example, in this sales aspect, I did take a look at the 26, and it is something where she needs to be very genuine in her approach. And I don't think she would ever sell anything that she doesn't believe in. So this is something that is very strongly comes up in her chart, where for her it is important to only sell things that she really believes in and that touch her heart, basically.
Accurate. So, when I was applying to jobs here, there were like jobs in the coal mining industry. I'm like, I don't think I could do that morally. So yes, very much so. And I also don't like when other people sell ice cream to Eskimos. It feels schmutzy.
Yeah, she has a very high moral standard, and this will definitely come through in the asteroids that I looked at as well. So as you can see, her only channel is the 4521, and the 45th gate is in her sun. So the great thing about this is that she has the sun element in a defined throat. This is one of her ways to shine her light. So her life path in the conscious side, she can follow it by herself. However, in the unconscious aspect, she has both of the gates in an undefined emotional solar plexus. So this is where she would need a little bit of external support, someone to define her emotional solar plexus, to really fulfill her entire life purpose, because the incarnation cross is made up of the personality sun and earth and the design sun and earth. So in her case, you have the 45.6 coming out of the throat, and the other side of the channel is in her Mercury, her unconscious Mercury. So this is again something for a manifester. It's amazing, because she has the Mercury in the only channel that is defined, and it's pointing and going and flowing right to her throat. So she can really express her life purpose, which has a lot to do with having the resources for her tribe, allocating them correctly, and also leading individuals, which is a big thing also when we're looking at the asteroids. And so that's why when I was going through it, I was becoming more and more happy because of the position that she has in the restaurant at the moment, where she's really leading a group of individuals, and this is what she's here to do. She has the ability to bring the right people together. She's doing that. She has created her own team of pretty much completely new staff. And she has the ability to lead them accordingly. She knows what they need, and they started to trust her and to feel like she's not just there to be the leader from the top, but really to be in the mix, doing the work with them.
Dude, one beautiful thing one of my staff members said to me the other day, she's like, I turned down the other job and decided to work here on my trial shift because of you. And like, that's when I still had a jank ass team of like ragtag individuals. She's like, I could see that like you wanted to change things. It was like, oh my God, boo.
That is so nice and so right. Yes. So yeah, she definitely saw your potential and what is inside of you. Okay, so let's take a look at your personality sun asteroids. So your personality sun is in 45.6, and your personality Venus is in also 45.6. So your values and also the feminine aspects of you are in this leadership position. So you will lead. You are a very strong leader. You also have we will take a look at the the other influences as well, but you're a very strong leader in how you lead from both feminine and masculine aspects. So you have Chronos in 45.5, and that is about leadership, structure, and power. So within your leadership gate, you have this femininity and leadership, structure, and power. So you also have masculine aspects in that. It's also in line 5, which on top of that just brings the ball home, basically, because that is the leadership line. So definitely just keep going that way. You have Hygeia, which is in 45.6, which is also about wanting to help others. So this is in a breaking bread kind of way as well. So it's not about giving them money, but it's really, as I mentioned before, it is about this sharing and being in it together, and what is mine is yours kind of situation. So it's not about being a leader from up here, it's really leading from within the pack. You have Pandora in 45.6, which is something that may point towards that you've been made to believe that this is not a gift but a curse. So this is something that may be connected to material wealth, where people may have made you feel like this is not your gift. However, this is your gift, but Pandora has been told that it's a curse even though it is her gift. So just that this may have been something that you had to decondition yourself from, or maybe still have to, I don't know. But accepting that this power and this leadership position is something that you're born to do, that this is your gift. And did you experience anything along those lines where people were putting you down or making you believe that you're not able to do that?
Not prior to this position. There has been, yeah. I'm not going to say too much, but there has been some, I think, questioning of my intentions and my character in the position that I'm currently in. And I think it also has come up that I'm too strong of a leader.
Mm-hmm. But from people higher up, not from your staff.
Exactly.
Or also, okay. So this is something I think that you may face more the more that you're actually stepping into these leadership positions. This is something that can also come up from people that maybe are jealous of your position, or people that just want to put you down. This is something that you are going to face probably more the more that you actually take on leadership positions, because as far as I know, this is also the first real leadership position, as in a sense where you have a whole team that you're leading, because before you were more self-employed.
I was
right?
more self-employed, but I managed a restaurant when I was 21. Like,
okay,
back of house, front of house. Yeah. I did this on a smaller scale. Like, I wasn't doing the hiring, but I did this same thing when I turned 21. So, oh my God, a decade ago? Ew. Oh God.
Yeah, don't do these calculations. It's scary. So then you also have Typhon in 45.1, which is fighting your way in. And it's an act of bravery, perseverance. And it can also show a battle with internal dominance. So it could be internal, it could be external, someone trying to dominate from outside. The things that you could have been battling on the inside was either being timid, probably more likely timid than pompousness. So these are kind of the shadow, reactive, and repressed aspects, or the repressed aspect is timid, the reactive aspect is pompousness. But in gate 45, the shadow can be expressed in either one of these ways. And to either have this internal battle of not falling into either side of the shadow, to then reach synergy. So the way that I see you is that you're already in the gift aspect. So this may have been something that you were struggling with when you were a teenager, where you either felt dominated from outside, where you were told what to do and which direction to go into, which is also very challenging, especially for a manifester, or it is something that you were battling internally. Would you like to share about this?
I'm trying to think of instances. I think I was louder and more brazen then. Like, I just didn't give a shit. But, like, more so just, like, being myself, even if that was, like, goofy, like, with my friends. Maybe less so in, like, leadership roles. I don't know if one really has a leadership role as, like, a teenager, other than in, like, group projects at school. But usually took on the leadership role there just because people are dumb in group projects.
Because it's naturally you.
Yeah, because people are dumb in group projects. I can tell you that in my MBA right now, I'm working with grown-ass adults who can't pull it together. I don't know what happens when people go from like real life and then it's a school project and they're like, whoa, what am I doing? I digress. Anyway, I think there was probably an air of pompousness in like my tween years, and then I moved when I turned 14 to Vegas, and it was probably more internalized at that point. So it went into like making myself small because I didn't know anybody, didn't have the same rapport with people. So I think I've experienced both, or it's presented itself in both ways.
Interesting. Yeah, as this is your personality sun, so your conscious side, this is even in your chart, if you're listening to this episode, you will connect more with the personality aspects, which are conscious in your mind. Like, you're aware of these things. The unconscious aspects are things that you either recognize when someone is smacking you over the head and says, hey, you're doing this. And then at some point you're like, maybe I should reflect on this a little bit. But oftentimes these are the unconscious sides, are things that other people recognize in you and you take a bit longer to recognize in yourself, if you're willing to recognize them in yourself. If you're not, then you may not even recognize them for the entire time you're on this planet.
The quick hit you on the head thing. So literally, my dad would like smack it out of me sometimes if I went into like an anxiety spiral, which I didn't love his reaction. But homeboy is a emotional MG, so like with the whole friggin' stream from his root to his emotional center to his throat to his ajna. Like, it's the individual stream too, and it's so much. Anyway, I think because like my anxiety is literally like in my root, and I know it and I feel it when it like hits in and clicks in, and it sucks. And I know I have the ability to shut it off, but sometimes I'm just like in a spiral and I can't. But he literally knocked it out of me, but that elicited such a shit response from me that wasn't the right way to do it. You know what I mean? So that was a tangential thing. I don't know if that's tangential is a word, a tangent of what you were saying, right? Like someone literally knocking it out of you, but like that may not be the best thing for you, even if they see it as that. So that can go either way too.
Definitely. And I don't agree with literally smacking people. So I'm trying, or what I was trying to say was not literally smack people over the head, but it was did I say literally? What I meant was being smacked over the head by, you know, when you have a friend or close family member or someone and they say, oh my God, you keep doing that. You're always doing that.
They get you back into reality, but sometimes that's not what you need. Sometimes it is.
That's true. Well, and also the timing often is not right, because when you're just having a panic attack or anxiety attack, or you're angry and upset, and then someone tells you your flaws, it doesn't help. This is not going to support your self-growth process.
I can tell you that as a manifester, I don't like being told what to do, whether it's beneficial for me in the moment or not.
Trust me, it's also in your asteroids.
Yeah, I don't
Additionally.
like So Random story. David and I did a 5K once, and I like needed to find the willpower within myself to do it. And he's like, "Come on, babe, you got this." I was like, "Stop talking to me. Let me run." I was like, "You encouraging me is not helping me right now."
Totally get that.
Love you, babes.
Is he listening to these? Well, anyways, it's always good to tell them you love them. Okay. So then we have your personality Earth, which is 26.6. So the personality Earth is about finding ways to ground your mind. And in this case, this is the 26 aspect that we were already talking about earlier, where we connect with the 44 in my chart, the salesperson aspect. And you have Astrea. So this is very, I'm saying salesperson aspect, but there's so much more to each gate. But I'm just keeping it really, really keyword high level here. Because I want to focus more on the asteroids, but you still need to understand what the aspect of the gate, what kind of influence this gate has to then connect it to the asteroids. So you have Astrea in 26.4, which is about justice, innocence, and purity. And this is where you embrace integrity. So this is really, that's why I'm saying it's super important for you as well to, when you're selling yourself or something that you believe in, it's always through integrity. And you can see it, you can hear it as well if you're listening to these episodes. Celestina is always sharing openly and not hiding anything, not pretending to be someone that she isn't, which I really love about her. It's rare to find people like that. So then we have Circe, which is in 26.3. And this is also with clear intentions, the strong ability to facilitate the good for others and wanting. So sometimes what you do, though, is you may try to influence them because you know it's good for them. And you try to still be like, hey, but just try this. It's good for you.
Yes, and I will typically do it for free if that's the case.
Yeah.
Yes, if I think something will be good for someone, I'll just give it to them.
Yeah, this is very, very much Circe. Then we also have Persephone, or Persephone, I don't know, Persephone. Okay, great. We have 26.3, becoming vocal when you're being told what to do, think, or how to behave. So that's what I found so funny when you were talking about the 5K. It's literally in your asteroids. So yeah, guys, don't ever tell her what to do, think, or how to behave, or she will become vocal. This is a nice way of saying some other versions.
Bitchy, angry, all those things.
Yes. We also have Narcissus in 26.1, which is a bit of a... You may have a tendency to have a dreamy self-focus, but it's in a design Narcissus. So it may not be too consciously, something that you're too consciously aware of. And it also could be that you have a tendency to not be able to see another person's point of view when it's about selling something to someone. So when you're really focused on wanting to help them, and you may not even want to hear or see the other person's point of view because you're so convinced that it is good for them, could be a tendency.
Interesting. I feel like maybe, I don't know, I'd have to like dig into that a little bit, but I feel like the completely open head, undefined ajna allows me to see both sides and like have a different, I don't know, maybe have a different understanding of like, okay, cool, maybe it's not right now, and that's fine. I think once I started learning more about human design as a whole, that affected the way I like pitch people things. So like even with two of my employees, one of them is an emotional generator. I don't remember. I think he's a 5/1 emotional generator. And I was like, hey, like take the time you need for this proposition. So I think it's more of like the understanding that giving people the time that they need to make decisions, I've incorporated that more. So maybe that was something that I did in the past, but now knowing more about human design, really leaning into understanding that like 50% of the population is emotional, if not more. So really giving people the time, and if they respond immediately, then that means it was a gut decision. So dope, but giving people the time, I think has helped maybe combat that a bit.
Great, thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's also something that I mentioned because it is there. It is, however, in the unconscious aspect, and it is also a very, very small part of your definition. So it's just something that may have reared its head from time to time, as you've mentioned that it may have been something from the past as well. So just sometimes pointing out the shadow aspects, because there are some asteroids where it also depends on how you interpret them. And because I know you quite well, I do know which side of the asteroid to interpret. So when I'm doing these things with clients, what I would say is I would ask them questions more than I would do it with you, where I'm like, okay, this is a side where I felt, okay, this is you. There's the other side, but to me, this is the side that I can see and focus on. But when you're doing shadow work as well on yourself and with clients, it's always good to understand and see both sides, to then also, it kind of triggers self-reflective aspects. Like in you, when I'm talking about Narcissus, it can be something, okay, it could have been something, and it could still be there sometimes, rarely, where it just pokes its head and then it kind of goes away again, because you are very open-minded. And I've never felt like you ever force someone into something. So you always still try to hear and see another person's point of view. But sometimes maybe it can also be just this quiet little voice that is like, hey, but I don't want to listen to the other person's point of view. And then you're like, shh, be quiet. You don't have a right to say that.
I've been in those instances where someone was trying to impose their views like in a sneaky, like icky kind of way on me though. And then I'm like, how do I get out? How do I get out? You know?
Yeah. I don't like that either at all. Even if their intentions are good, if I don't want something, I don't want it. Yeah. Then we have, okay, this is also a difficult one. Mnemosine. Mnemosine? Cool. So this one is about imaginative, creative, and inspirational, and this is where your storytelling comes into play. So when you're trying to sell something to people, also, even though you don't have the 5611 channel, you still have the 56. And again, this is something that is reflected in your 26, where storytelling becomes a big part of how you sell something. So sometimes selling something is interpreted in a negative way, where you're trying to just make money and make profit and you're trying to sell something. But selling something doesn't have to be that way, especially for Celestina. As you can see, it is very genuine, very pure, and trying to do good for others. And the way that she can then sell something in a genuine way is also through her in a creative way, being creative about it, but also through storytelling.
A note about storytelling, if you guys struggle with this, the book is called The Introvert's Edge. I don't remember the author, but that is like in my 3-line discovery of how to be an entrepreneur. I read that book and it just resonated so much, rather than like the stressing out and like having to show numbers and like convince people, like telling them success stories or sharing others like success stories, or even sharing your story, if that is like the method that you took to do whatever you did, it just resonates so much more with people. And that's why storytelling has like been a thing for millennia. So if you struggle with that, check out The Introvert's Edge. Highly recommend.
Do you feel like you tell a lot of stories, because I feel like, I mean, from my side, I feel like you do tell things through stories. It's more about what you've experienced and what you've learned from it, or what you've seen other people. But I feel like there's a lot of storytelling, which I enjoy.
It's interesting though, because I find that if I'm in a group of people and I start recounting something, if it's interrupted, right? Like if my story is interrupted, something else will take precedence and then it goes away, right? Like no one will ask about it again. So I don't actually consider myself a good storyteller. I don't think I keep people on the edge of their seats. It's really interesting that you're saying, I mean, I know that I use stories to sell, like in conversation like that, but in my day-to-day life, I feel like my stories get interrupted in conversation more often than not. Like I don't get to finish my stories, and that's really interesting because it happens in group settings, and oftentimes it'll happen on a one-on-one setting as well.
Aw, I like your stories. I'm sure everyone on here does too, otherwise they wouldn't be listening for an hour on end.
Thanks, bud. Yeah, it's just been interesting. I don't even know who it happens with more so, but I have recognized that it does happen.
Yeah, I also see it sometimes when we talk. I also feel like I'm cutting you sometimes. And I mean, this is what I've recognized in the editing part of things. And I'm like, oh man, I didn't get back to that. So I do see that this is, I feel like I mean, try not to do it a lot. I'm trying not to do it at all, actually, but I do see that it happens sometimes. So I'm sorry for that.
It's okay. And I think it's because I mean, I have two gates in my throat, but I only have like one channel. So maybe that's why, right? Like if I'm not sharing from my heart, if it's just like on a whim sharing, maybe it doesn't resonate with people as much. I don't know. But I have found that to happen. So it's really interesting.
And when you're selling things on Instagram, for example, do you feel like when you're telling stories, it is better? Like it sells better, or?
Oh, 100%. People are definitely more engaged with storytelling than I can't sell and just be like, buy this. Like that, I can't do that. Like I have to have something behind it. You know what I mean? And then even saying like the buy this part is hard.
I get that. Totally get that. Then let's move to your Design Sun 36.2, which is Seto. It's in your Design Seto, which is 36.5. So here, the 36 is about new adventures, trying new things, wanting to experience new things, especially when it's connected to the 35. So what I realize, I think I also have, well, I definitely have one of the gates. Let me just check if it's the 35 or the 36. 36, yeah. So the 36, when the 35 is defined through the planets, first of all, it's a collective energy, but it's a very push forward kind of energy. So I really feel like I want to do new things and I want to have new experiences. And when it's kind of broken off, so the time that I really recognized it a lot was when I was in Valencia. And then I was emotionally defined. And I didn't really want to leave. So it was because there's sunshine, there's palm trees, there's the ocean. My brother was there. They were about to have a baby. And I helped them move in as well, and there were a lot of nice cafes, and you know that I love cafes with good coffee. So yeah, it was, and the sun was shining, and then I was walking with my brother to the train station, and I was supposed to take the flight, and I just felt so emotional, and then I checked the planetary positions right away. I nearly cried. This is how emotional I felt, and this is something for a non-emotional being. It's weird. And my brother's also not emotional, so not emotionally defined, let's say that. So I definitely felt this so much, and in this case, yeah, the 36 is really about experiencing new things. Also, just be mindful if you do have this full channel to take your time before jumping into things, because that means that you are emotionally defined and you need to take time, at least sleep over it before jumping into things. Don't just book the next flight and say, okay, I'm out. But this is because Seto is the goddess of, or it's like a sea creature goddess kind of. It's strongly connected to the ocean. It's strongly connected to sea animals, so big whales, or if you also want to consider Nessie, the sea monster, the lake monster. What is it called? Was it called Nessie? I think so. It's somewhere. It's an old folklore. So yeah, I had a question for you. Basically, first of all, did you have any kind of challenges in school?
Like academically? No, straight A's.
Very good. From the get-go? Like no dyslexia, no
Nope.
stuff like that? Okay, cool.
Nope.
So that side is out of the picture, because sometimes Seto can point towards some forms of neurodivergence. So that can be a part of it. The other side of it, what are your dreams like?
Like when I'm asleep?
Yeah, when you're asleep, unconscious.
I don't always remember them, but often they're like deja vu-y.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I dream about things that end up happening. I don't think I have control over them. Like I'm not like a conscious dreamer. I wish I was, because that would be dope. But they're not scary. Like I don't have nightmares. They're usually just like my everyday. Like David picked out a green shirt today and I was like, did we have a conversation about you wearing a green shirt like today? And he's like, no. I was like, oh, I guess I dreamt that. So like that's what my dreams are. They're very deja vu-y.
Okay, interesting. And do you have an affinity with the ocean? Not so much.
I don't love it. I prefer like rolling hills. Like I prefer rolling hills over the ocean, but that's not really I mean, it is kind of a thing here. But recently I have just been like going to the ocean and eating my lunch, gazing out at the waves, because that's as close as I can get to a valley right now.
Aww, poor you. The smallest violin of the world is playing you a song. Having to eat your lunch at the ocean.
Oh my god. Okay, quick tangent. Do you remember? This is such a pretentious sentence coming out of my mouth. Do you remember when we were driving from Lake Como up the mountain over into the Swiss border? God damn it.
Yes. How could I forget?
Such a pretentious sentence. To make it less pretentious, we definitely pulled off on the side of the road to go pee in the woods. So you're welcome, guys.
God. Yeah, what was your actual point?
Instead of embarrassing you.
No, never.
It started snowing. So like we left, it was like maybe 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So like 20 degrees Celsius when we left Cuomo. It started snowing when we got to the top. It was gorgeous. None of that has to do with the story though. So we crest the hill and we start driving down like on the Swiss side, and I start to feel violently ill. You're not mountains. No. You're mountains? No. I don't know why. But like at the top of the mountain, like driving down into the valley, I was like not feeling okay. And I remember not having enough snacks to combat it. So I don't know where I was going with this. Oh, valleys. Valleys, not mountains. So that's the closest. The beach is the closest I can get to like open, expansive views. That was a really long story. You're welcome, guys.
Oh my god. Okay, that was... So the answer is no. No affinity with the ocean, except that it reminds you of a valley. Oh, good. I enjoyed that story with all its ups and downs. Okay.
Dude, you were driving like a mad lady on those turns, though. My poor car.
I couldn't even drive like a mad lady with that humongous car. Do you still have that in Australia? Did you bring it? Wow. Yeah, no, that doesn't work for turns. No. Very long car. Okay, let's move to your design Earth 6.2. So here, 6.2 is interesting because that is connecting to the 59 and connecting to the sacral and providing you a lot of fertility if you do have the full channel. Yes, it also provides you, specifically you, with a lot of fertility as well. Congratulations, because... Yes?
David and I have the full fertility thing together. So great. Love that for us.
I'm very aware, yes. But also, you have 1 or 2 asteroids that are pointing to you being very fertile. So, the 6th gate is about also breaking down other people's walls. So you can, additionally to the 13th gate, you have the ability to get the stories out of people and also make them feel safe and good and secure for them to even share these stories with you. So you have Haumea in 6.6, which is about fertility, childbirth, sisterhood. So it's interesting that this
Before
is
we get onto that really quick, 2 seconds. So the bringing out stories in people, it's interesting that it comes from this as well, because last year when I was hosting human design focused spaces for like dietitian entrepreneurs, there were 3 people in there who were all emotional authorities, and I had never felt such a beautiful connection to all. I don't know, they brought out the emotions in me. It was such a beautiful connection, and I've never had another space quite like that. So that was really cool. But also, everyone in there was so vulnerable and so beautifully open to sharing and listening and just being present for it. So I wonder I would have to look at all 4 of our charts together, but I think there was a really beautiful connection between like the sacral and the emotional center between the 4 of us. So I've felt that, I've experienced that, and it's absolutely beautiful when it happens. So cool. Thank you for reaffirming that. On to the asteroids.
No, this is also a fascinating thing about human design when you look at connection charts, but also when you just know about human design and you don't know the other person's chart, but you feel the shift in yourself. So sometimes it is easier with some people to express your thoughts, to express your emotions, to express your intuitive sides, so to express yourself. And all of these aspects are understandable through human design. So for example, if an emotional being doesn't connect to the throat, then they may be emotional, but they have difficulties expressing their emotions a lot of the time. And if you then, as a partner or family member or friend, don't connect their emotional solar plexus to the throat, it may still be difficult for them to express their emotions. So then you will have to wait for planetary transits, or you will just have to figure other ways out to help them share their emotions. But
mark your calendar when you have to share.
Yeah. Set an alarm. Exactly. Yeah. There in Neutrino Design app, you can actually mark which transits you want the app to be triggered in. So whenever a center is defined or whenever a gate is defined, they've really gone above and beyond with this app. It's starting to be very close to replacing a human design reader. Not entirely yet, but it's very, very good by now. Amazing job, guys. So yeah, this Haumea is in the 6th gate, is again pointing towards your creativity as well, and just being a very supportive individual as well. So apart from the childbearing and fertility aspect, you also have the potential to be a very good mother if you do have the sacral support of your partner, which we know you do.
Have you seen us? We parent Luna, pawint Luna so well. Luna's my dog, guys, by the way. We pawint her so well.
That is very true. I mean, she cooks more elaborately for Luna than she does for herself sometimes.
I'm literally making a Costco trip tomorrow for my dog.
See? Point taken. Point. No, that's not how you say it. Point and... How do you say that? You know what I mean. Okay. Design Asbelus. That is the next asteroid, which is... It does kind of show clairvoyance abilities and that you have a strong intuition. So after reading that, I was thinking that I really hope you're going to lean more into these aspects in life. So you're already using oracle cards and you're using a pendulum with your necklace. So really leaning into that, there's a lot of potential in that space, where there was another asteroid that was also pointing to more of a shamanic potential as well. So really connecting in these ritual, spiritual aspects in a nature-connected way.
So moving back to New Mexico is what I'm hearing I need to be doing.
If that's what you feel called to.
Oh, I loved it there.
Oh, see? Yeah. So also there was an alchemic aspect in your chart as well. So I think there are a lot of things that are pointing towards just shamanic transformational. Also Shiva is in this gate, by the way. Shiva, transformation, destroyer, growth, powerful male energy as well. He's in 6.3 in your personality Shiva, and you also have personality Zeus again, which is leading through creative conflict resolution in this case with the 6th gate. So you're very good at breaking down people's walls, but also in resolving conflicts creatively, if you choose to. We also have personality Hidalgo in 6.5, and that one is associated with themes of freedom, rebellion, and the pursuit of political activities. So it represents the principle of self-assertion and fighting for your own beliefs. And there is a story where I can heavily relate to this when it comes to you, especially with this theme of the 6th line, where I think this is where Hidalgo was very supportive for you as well, where you knew the right decision for yourself and you were taking care of yourself, basically, which I think is the right thing to do. Self-assertion, fighting for your own belief. Then we have personality Atropos, and that is about the ability to cut things off and having clean breaks. Atropos is the one that cuts the thread with the Greeks. And this again in connection to relationships and to intimate relationships. So that doesn't mean that it's just romantic relationships, but just in general, people that are very close to you, knowing who to have and keep in your life and who to cut loose is also another very beneficial aspect of your asteroid.
That took a hot minute in my world, but yes.
So the support is there. It's conscious even, personality Atropos. But yeah, still can take time to develop. That is it for your asteroids. And the interesting thing about asteroids is that you can also, as I mentioned, you can look at the other side. So if you do have a gate 26, for example, and you do look at 44, you will gain even more insights into how to market yourself, because you do have this energy. It doesn't mean that you are going to have a defined spleen from this. You do have asteroids residing in gate 44, which provide you just with an additional information on, especially in this channel, on how to market yourself. If you take a look at your 57, for example, which would connect your 10th gate, this would provide you with insights on how to take care of yourself, love yourself more. You could also take a look at gate 34, which will also provide you with the energy of loving yourself. So yeah, doing this with every kind of gate that is a hanging gate and looking at the other side will provide you with a bit more information.
So cool. So basically, I'm a really strong leader who likes servant leadership and wants to give the people all of the resources.
Yeah.
Solidified, yes.
You mean I could have been shorter? I thought that was interesting.
It was really good, dude. I've never dove into the asteroids. So I'm really appreciative that you went hardcore into it. And it's cool that you do know a lot about me, and we're able to see like the light and shadow aspect come through and like target it towards that. Guys, if you want a reading with Miko, she can do this for you. So throwing that out there, let me market you real quick because I believe in this.
Oh, thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, I love doing that. And it's very hard for me to stop. So if we wouldn't have a deadline at like 8 a.m. where we started this call, I would have just gone on and on and on.
All right, let's take a look at our charts together because I feel like this is also super cool. If you guys haven't done this before, oftentimes you do, to see them like superimposed on each other, oftentimes you do have to pay for some type of human design software. But it is really cool. And you could also probably draw this in if you had like markers and a blank human design chart for yourself, right? Like if you wanted to do that with a budget, balling on a budget. But it's really cool to see our charts like together and the energy that we bring together. So we're the, what is it called? 8-in-1 room for fun. I think that's what it's called. Meaning that Miko and I together, if you guys are looking at the chart, the only thing we have open together is a head, which is dope because open-mindedness, why not?
Getting inspired from everywhere around us.
Yeah, it's super cool. Yeah. Do you want to dive into our combined chart just a little bit? Just a little bit.
I feel like I've talked a lot. I would like you to share your take on it.
Amazing. Cool. Thanks, Boo. Throat is conked out. Your I know is done. No, I believe. Your I believe is done. Yeah, I think it's really cool because knowing how we've created this podcast together, how we've hosted retreats in the past, how we've planned for other retreats that just didn't happen because of life and timing and things that will happen again in the future. It's really cool to see our charts come together because on my own, truthfully, I mean, you guys have seen my chart. I don't have a ton of sustainable energy, but even before this, I took a little nappy poo and I was like, dude, I don't know if I can do this. But now being in the space with you, I'm completely energized to be able to do this. And in the past, we've also recorded at like 11 p.m. my time and like really random hours and probably even later than that, my time. And I come out of our sessions, like our recording sessions, feeling so energized because if you're looking at the screen together, Miko and I do create a lot of like lower half energy that we don't have on our own. So together we do have the energy to sustain recording an 1.5 to 2 hour podcast. Jesus Christ, so long. But we do have the energy to be able to sustain this, which I think is really cool. And also bring in the identity of who we are together as Heartcore podcast or as retreat hosts together, the ability to market it together. We've talked about all of these channels already, so I'm kind of just reiterating what we bring together. And it's so cool to be able to see that come in just in a different way. I think the only note that I have is so we're split in the sense that just the root and the emotional center are like one half of the chart, and then everything else, so the ajna, the throat, the ego center, the G center, the spleen, and the sacral center are the other split. So it's really interesting because I still don't feel like crazy emotions, or at least I'm not able to verbalize crazy emotions being in the same space as you. And that's probably a good thing because like I said, I've seen the 35, 36, and I've seen the, what's the one next to that, man? The 12, 22 in my parents, and it's intense, so I'm actually kind of happy that we don't have that in our chart together, because this may not work if that was the case, to be honest. But it's really cool to be able to see the grounding energy into the emotional energy versus having the complete vocalization of like crazy and wild, oh god, there's a bug on me, of crazy and wild emotions. I think that's a really cool aspect of our chart. And also, I just realized, so we only have, we have a decent amount of the identity center, but it's mostly the lower half of the identity center, remind me, is the direction, not the love center, right? Direction, like where you want to take people. Remind me.
What we actually have the vessel of love. I'm just seeing
boom.
that.
There you go. Yeah.
Together. Oh, that's pretty. Because we have 10, 15, 46, and 25.
Sounds like a football thing. So that is
the vessel of love with all the love gates. Well, there are more than those love gates, but those are the vessel of love gates.
So I feel like, again, there you go. That's really cool to point out. And then the other piece of it is our electromagnetics together. So electromagnetics are when one person has the gate and then the other person has the gate on the other side, and then you come together, right? So we have 5. Is that it? Only 5? Okay, well, we have 5 electromagnetics together. Which I think is really cool, because in that it just brings you together in a different way than what's the friendship one called?
Companionship.
Thank you. Companionship, friendship, same. But yeah, I actually don't know if I have companionship channels with anybody, but I feel like the electromagnetic channels just hit harder, and like you can really understand the person just in a deeper way, which is really cool. We only have one compromise channel, which is I believe your connection from your throat to your ajna.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's why I get cut off so much.
Do I do it that much?
No, but I wonder if it's because of a compromise channel with people who are around me. Not just, I'm using this as an example, but I wonder if it's a compromise channel with people who are around me. I know with David, he has the full 4323, and he'll know me like no tomorrow, and sometimes I get cut off in conversations with him as well, and I wonder if it's because of the compromise channel, and I'm pretty sure that's the only one that he and I have as well, so that's really interesting.
It's highly likely that it's because of a compromise channel, so you may also create it with the 3313 with other people, but yeah, it's highly likely when there's a compromise, you kind of, if you are the one being compromised, so if you only have one gate and the other person has the full channel, then you kind of need to step back in a lot of ways, but it's still not comfortable. I mean, it's still not okay to cut people off, and it still doesn't feel nice to be cut off. So, but it could be an explanation.
I was gonna say, at least now I have an explanation. That's cool. Yeah. Potentially.
I'm still going to try not to do that so much with you. Preferably
it's fine,
never.
Boo. It's all good. It happens all day, every day in my life.
So, yeah, but it's also not nice for a manifestor on top of that.
Yeah, no. It diminishes me, for sure. Like, that's how that feels. But,
And the electromagnetic channels are also something very fascinating. So, first of all, when you have a companionship channel, this is where you really understand the other person extremely well, because this is the same channel that you have, the same gates, the same centers that you have, that you both share. So that is something where you really understand the person on a deep level with both centers and the channel. A compromise channel provides you with a certain glimpse into what the other person has or what the other person is all about. But it can also provoke jealousy, because or just feeling less than the other person. You may want to have what the other person has, because a full channel provides you with both sides of the coin, basically, and one gate only provides you with one aspect of the theme of the channel. An electromagnetic channel does provide you with a deep connection to the other person. You kind of feel complete in this theme with the other person. It can, however, also create a lot of tension. So what happens with the electromagnetic channels is that it's either love or hate. This is what you say about the electromagnetic channels, where it can be love, but it can also turn into hate. And we all know how fine this line can be, even though I don't believe that love and hate are the opposite of one another. But it's a great connection if both people are willing to grow and evolve. And we've also had some situations where we've pointed things out to one another, but I feel like we're always taking it in such a good and positive way, where it's not that we're blaming the other person or ourselves for something, but instead we're like, oh yeah, thank you for pointing that out, and I'll work on improving this aspect about myself. So this kind of relationship that we have is unbelievably beneficial to us as well, hopefully to you guys listening as well. But we learn and grow a lot from each other as well, because we do define a lot of our charts. As you can see, there are a lot of aspects that are defined, which are usually undefined. So it's a lot of learning potential as well for each of us.
I think the biggest... I can't remember what it was or what channel or what gate it is, but when you were like, either you're going to take on my morning routine or you're going to lose your morning routine, I feel like that's probably what you were alluding to. What is that?
That's the 515. Yeah, the 515 channel is because these are two very, very, very different rhythmatic energies. So we both have it in an undefined center. So this is the first thing. So we both don't have a consistent way of tapping into either one of these energies. But the 15 is more of a I go with the flow kind of energy. It is more about not setting an alarm in the morning. And this really depends on your entire chart. You have to look at the entire chart, but this is just a generalized information on this, because it can be stronger or less strong depending on the individual. So having an open, undefined morning routine is better for such individuals a lot of time. And with Celestina, where we have the right facing arrow in her environment, but the left facing arrow in her personality, it is a bit less of this intense, okay, she doesn't have a morning routine kind of situation. There is still some form of a morning routine for her. The 15th gate, because of her digestive system being left, her nutritional aspects being left, it is more of a structure. There's more of a structure in it than someone that would be right in this arrow. However, her environment is pointing right. So there's more of she needs to have a calm environment that supports her relaxation, instead of having a very hectic, very busy environment that makes her move all the time. So this is more beneficial to her. So the 15th gate in her chart, if you look at it, it benefits a bit more from having a routine, but that is not set into stone. So more that she's more someone that needs maybe setting aside an hour for herself, and in that hour doing whatever she feels like doing in the moment, but not saying, okay, from 6 to 6:10 I will do breathing exercises, from 6:10 to 6:30 I will do yoga, from this time to this time I will do that. That doesn't really work for her. So it should be more of a flow.
Is that your morning routine?
Ooh, you want to give me some aloe for that burn? Yeah. So yeah, I have little cards, as I've shown you before, I think. My morning routine, I love to have structure, and I need to see things that I need to do. So I do have little cards that I just go flip one after another, and then I just go through it. And it does have it is always in the same order. I do like to do the same things in the same order. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be doing the same yoga exercises or the same HIIT training or the same breathing exercises, but at least I have the same order. And I have the same, for example, I will do oil pulling, I will do breathing exercises, I will do mantras, I will do my affirmations, it's a whole list of things, but it's always in the same order. And when we come together, so we both don't have a consistent energy flow towards these things unless we're living with a sacral being or a G center defined being in Celestina's case. So then we would have a more consistent energy flow towards it. And if we come together, or when we come together, what can happen is that we get disrupted in our flow. So she's very, very flowy in her routines. It doesn't mean that she doesn't have any, but it's more of a, I do what I feel in the moment. It's not, and also it is, of course, influenced by her environment. Whereas me, I like to continue my morning routine, and I also do get cranky if I am not able to do that for quite some time. And when we come together, I often get pulled into this flow more than she gets pulled into the routine more, of course, because she doesn't really know my routine. And of course, I could be like, okay, hey, listen, this is what we do every day, but this would also not be healthy for her. So us understanding and knowing this about each other has helped us to understand, okay, we definitely need separate rooms when we're doing our retreats. Also because we're very open and we do need to release our energies. So in the last retreat, we were very close together. And while we handled this very well, like we didn't really have emotional outbursts or we didn't get on to each other's nerves or anything like this, but it would be beneficial to still have separate rooms, separate energies. And we did take some moments of being separate, or one of us would take over when the other one felt like, okay, we need rest. So understanding these aspects and being able to step in when the other one needs some rest is also super important. And having rooms that are separate, that are also further away from the customers or the clients or the retreat, the individuals that are coming to the retreats, is also helpful because we also get to decharge in this space. So yeah.
Fun fact, I didn't sleep at all the 4 days we were on the retreat. And I wonder, because we put 2 manifesting generators in one room, I wonder if that was just like super intense energy, like radiating from that space. I couldn't sleep at all.
Yeah, I also had a really hard time sleeping. Yeah. No, but you live and learn. We live and learn, at least. So that's definitely something we've learned. And yeah, this was one of the things that we've noticed. But no, this was not actually what I was referring to. I just remember that even when we point out something about the other, or for example, this was also not the thing that I was thinking about, but as an example, you telling me that on the day or the day before recording that you're not going to be able to make it. I could have gotten upset about this, but first of all, what's the point? And second of all, I totally get it. I totally get that an ego manifester needs the break. So this is also, we also learned from this. And last time, when we scheduled for this session, we also talked about when is your next free time? And you said Sunday, and we can record on Monday. But this time I definitely said, and she also decided for sure we're not doing something on Sunday because she does need her rest. And then we said, okay, let's talk a bit closer to Monday and see how you feel on Monday and then make the decisions. So I feel like we don't get into conflicts and we don't get into this space of being upset with each other for whatever reason it may be. And we provide each other the space to speak freely. And we are always coming from a very understanding perspective. So yeah, this goes for everyone. It's not just in our relationship, but for everyone that we interact with, of course. But it's not, again, something that you can find everywhere with everyone. And it's really so nice to have this.
I think it also helps, though, that we're both aware of our own energies and what we bring to it, you know? So not everyone is aware of their energy and what they're bringing to the space. And I think that's where conflict can arise, especially for me, maybe you feel this way too, but like if someone who doesn't have a defined ego comes into your world and they're just like, oh yeah, like I'll do this. And then they feel obligated to because they're coming into it because you have a defined ego and not because they really want to, but because they're feeling like they have to, you know? So maybe that's some of it too. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, human design has helped immensely to provide this understanding for other people and acceptance for other people. As I've just also said in my live session yesterday, I was saying that when I do know someone's design, I can explain myself why they behave a certain way. And even if I don't, I still use human design because I'm like, oh, maybe they do have this defined and maybe that's why they're doing it. So it's kind of a super helpful, even if it's not true, it helps you just calm down about everyone around.
Agreed. Man, dude, game changer for, I think, understanding my husband better, right? Because he doesn't have a defined ego. And there is so many times I'm like, hey babe, can you like do this? And he'll be like, no, I don't want to. Or like, no, not right now. And like, that's also in like other parts of his chart that like that comes up. But for me, it's like Luna, like my doggo is like my priority in the morning. So like when you were saying like my morning routine is very fluid, it is, but everything I do in the morning prioritizes her, right? Like if it's a beautiful day and I'm tired, I'm taking her out. So I think that there's different priorities there, and that's where my heart is in the morning. So like even if I'm like, ooh, I would really love 45 minutes on the couch, if it's a beautiful morning and I only have 45 minutes, I'm spending it with her. You know what I mean? So I think there's just different priorities, and because it's so heart-led for me, she becomes my priority, if that makes sense.
Totally get that. Yes.
Well, that was us in a 2-hour nutshell.
Let's hope we can cut it down a little bit while editing.
Maybe. If not,
Maybe.
Guys, happy you hung out with us for 2 hours. Appreciated.
Yes, thank you very much. And I hope you've enjoyed the audio quality again this time.
On that note, be sure to follow us on Instagram at HeartcoreHD. Hit us up there if you guys have questions, if you want to give your input on this episode, if you want to share some of your stories, we'd love to hear them, read them. I think there's also ways for you to interact with us on Spotify if that's where you listen as well. Sometimes I'll throw up like a little quizzy thing on there, a little interactive thing so we can get some info from you. You guys can feel like you're interacting with us. and we can feel like a legit community, because we are becoming a community or community.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Bye.